Hi. Oftentimes we live in a world filled with events that take away our hope. Whether it's news that we follow about Israel and Gaza, or Ukraine and Russia, or any of the other events that are happening, the world is filled with events that take away our hope. And in that space, how do we find hope? So, Paul in 2 Corinthians chapter 4 talks about hope in this way. He says, "Therefore do not lose heart." How do we not lose heart? He says, "Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day." So what Paul is contrasting here is this outward world wasting away. At the same time, inwardly we are being renewed. Oftentimes when the world around us goes into chaos and decay, it's easy for us to just pay attention to it and get preoccupied with it. And what Paul is saying here is, take a step away from that external world to what God is doing inside of us. And that would be how we would not lose heart. So, how does that work? He says, "For our light momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all." So what he's doing is, after turning inward, he says turn upward. Look at what God is doing and how God's eternal glory outweighs all of these small things. And that's where it's important to keep sight of the eternal perspective. The psychiatrist called Viktor Frankl lived in the Auschwitz concentration camp during World War II. He found that among the people that were imprisoned in this concentration camp, there were some people that came into the camp and died relatively quickly. And then there were other people that came into the camp and they survived. They didn't waste away and die off. And what he found is, the difference between the two groups is, the second group of people had something bigger to live for. And in verse 17 of 2 Corinthians 4, where Paul says, "For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all," this is that sense of living for something that is bigger than who we are. And when we are in that space of living for something that is bigger than who we are, that anchors us to be people that are able to push through the pain, push through the despair, push through the suffering and the chaos that is there around us. So in verse 18 he goes on to say, "Fix your eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal." So here he's talking about attention. Until now, he talked about the world, he talked about eternal glory, and now he's talking about our attention. Where is our attention going? If we fix our eyes on the decay of the world and the chaos of the world, then that is where our eyes would be. But if we fix our attention on eternal glory, then that becomes the true reality that renews us inwardly. And when we live into that, that is where we would not lose heart. So, how do we become those people? Ultimately, we become what we behold. And that is why in verse 14, before he comes to this topic, Paul says, "Because we know that the one who raised Lord Jesus from death will also raise us in Jesus and present us with you to himself." So he's again talking about the bigger picture, and he's focusing on God raised Jesus from the dead. So what do we fix our eyes on when things in the world around us keeps going into decay, breakdown, and chaos? Paul is saying, fix your eyes on God who raised Jesus up, and keep that resurrected Jesus in our mind's eye, and don't let the world overpower that internal vision that you have of God's eternal glory that comes through the resurrection of Jesus. So that is how Paul talks about how not to let the world around us make us lose our heart, but focus, keep our eyes on Jesus, so that we have the deeper purpose that helps us to keep pushing through the pain. So that's all I have for today. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please post it on the comments. And if there is any other video that you want me to talk about or any other question you want me to cover in the next videos, again, please let me know in the comments below. I talked about attention in a different video. I'll place a link for that in the description, so please feel free to watch that as well. Anyways, until I see you in another video, bye for now.